Welcome, dear dreamer. Tonight, I invite you to slow down, to breathe deeply, and to let go of the weight of the day. You are safe here, in this story that is not quite history and not quite memory, but a gentle weaving of both. Our tale tonight is about something simple, something that once touched every home and every heart, but that few remember now. This is the story of the candle maker of Verona. Centuries ago, in the winding lanes of northern Italy, long before electric lamps and glowing screens, there were small workshops where artisans shaped light by hand. They worked with wax, wick, and flame. Their candles carried prayers in chapels, guided merchants across their account books, softened the darkness of lovers' meetings, and watched over the sick in long and silent nights. In Verona, a city of stone arches and river bridges, of Juliet's whispered balcony and markets bustling beneath church towers, one such candlemaker tended his humble shop. His life was simple, but his work was sacred. Though he was a man forgotten by name, his light touched thousands. As we walk together through this story, I will guide you gently into his world. We will explore the streets of Verona, hearing the bells, smelling the bread from the baker's ovens, and watching wax being melted into forms of delicate patience. We will step into the daily life of those who lived by candlelight, and then we will reflect on what candles meant, not only to one candlemaker, but to the whole of society. This story is not about haste or drama. It is about stillness, texture, rhythm, and the quiet wonder of ordinary lives. As you listen, I invite you to rest, to close your eyes if you wish, and to imagine yourself walking into the glow of a shop long vanished. Take a slow breath, in and out. The candlemaker's story begins now. You are walking through Verona as the day draws to a close. The sun has set behind the hills, and the air carries the cool fragrance of evening. Stone streets beneath your feet echo with the sound of your steps. Around you, shutters close one by one as families retreat into the safety of their homes. You pass the baker's shop where the last loaves of bread are cooling, their crusts fragrant with warmth. The scent of rosemary and flour drifts into the street. You pause for a moment, breathing it in before continuing along the winding lane. Overhead, laundry strung between windows sways faintly in the night breeze, cloth whispering against cloth. The bells of a nearby church sound out, slow and measured. Their tone settles over the city like a soft blanket. With each chime, you feel yourself sink deeper into the rhythm of Verona, a city that does not hurry, but moves at the pace of stone, water, and memory. Soon, you notice a small glow ahead. A shopfront spills warm, golden light into the cobbled street. You step closer, drawn not only by the glow, but by the faint perfume of honeyed wax. It is the workshop of the candlemaker. You step inside. The door creaks gently, and immediately you are embraced by warmth. The air is rich with scent, beeswax, faint smoke, a hint of herbs drying from the rafters. The workshop is lined with shelves. Candles of every shape rest upon them. Some are tall, elegant tapers, polished to smooth perfection. Others are rougher, small and stubby, made for kitchens and taverns. Bundles are tied with twine. Some are pure white, others tinted faintly with color: rose, ember, blue. The candlemaker greets you with a nod. He is a quiet man, his hands steady, his face softened by years of patient work. He says little, but his presence is calm, like the steady flame of a candle itself. You feel at ease here, as though you have stepped into a place outside of time. He turns back to his work. You watch as he stirs melted wax in a blackened iron pot above the fire. The wax ripples in golden waves, catching the flicker of the flames. He lifts a mold, carefully places a wick inside, and pours the wax with slow precision. The sound is delicate, like rain pattering softly on stone. Around the room, candles glow in clusters, their light casting shifting patterns across the beams of the ceiling. Shadows sway like dancers, rising and falling with the breath of the flame. The room feels alive, full of warmth and whispering stillness. You sit on a wooden stool by the window. Outside, the street is quiet. A passerby's footsteps echo once, then fade. A dog barks in the distance. But here, in the candlemaker's workshop, the world is hushed. Only the crackle of the fire, the drip of wax, and the soft sigh of your own breath remain. The candlemaker sets another mold to rest. He wipes his hands, then places a newly finished candle on the shelf. He looks at it for a moment, as though seeing more than wax and wick, as though seeing the light it will someday give to another life. You imagine where these candles might go. One might burn beside a scholar, his quill scratching late into the night. Another may flicker in a chapel, lighting the face of a saint's painting. A third might rest in the window of a tavern, guiding weary travelers to food and warmth. Each candle, though small, carries with it a destiny of light. As you sit, time drifts slowly, like wax cooling in its mold. The room's glow becomes softer, dreamlike. You feel your body loosen, your mind quiet. You are no longer a stranger in Verona. You are part of its rhythm, part of the candlemaker's quiet work. And in this stillness, you sense something profound. that the simplest acts, repeated with patience, can bring light to countless lives. The man who tends this shop has no name in history. His work left no inscription, no monument. And yet, if you listen closely, his life can be pieced together, not from grand events, but from the quiet traces of his craft. He was born in Verona in the late 15th century, a time when the city was alive with markets, music, and merchants from across Italy. His family was not wealthy, but they were steady, hard-working people. His father was a cooper, shaping wooden barrels for wine. His mother spun flax into linen. From childhood, he knew the rhythms of craft, the sound of tools, the smell of raw materials, the patience of hands that work with care. When he was a boy, he would follow his father through the city's narrow alleys. He remembered the clang of the blacksmith's hammer, the chatter of washerwomen by the river, the scent of oranges piled high in the marketplace. Verona was alive with sound and fragrance, a tapestry of lives woven together. And always, when dusk fell, he noticed the glow of candles in windows. Candles fascinated him. The way they softened a room, the way they carried warmth into shadow. He would sit at home, watching the small flame of his family's single taper burn through the evening. That light was his companion during the long winter nights, when the air was cold and silence pressed close. As he grew older, he apprenticed himself to a candle maker. Apprenticeship was not glamorous. It was years of simple, repetitive work, gathering tallow, preparing wicks, stirring wax. His hands blistered, his arms ached. The work was hot in summer, stifling in the little workshop, and cold in winter when he fetched water that stung his fingers. Yet he did not tire of it, for in each candle he saw the mystery of light itself. By his mid-20s, he had saved enough to open a small shop of his own. It was not large, just a single room with a hearth, a table, and shelves along the wall. But to him, it was a place of pride. He arranged his candles neatly, tied them in bundles, and left the shutters open so passers-by could see the gentle glow inside. Each day followed a rhythm. He would rise early, before dawn, and walk through the quiet streets to buy wax from merchants. Sometimes it was beeswax, golden and fragrant, purchased from beekeepers outside the city. Other times, it was cheaper tallow, rendered from animal fat. Beeswax was prized. It burned cleanly and filled the room with a soft scent of honey. Tallow was more common, but it smoked and carried a faintly sour smell. He learned to work with both, shaping them into forms that would serve whoever needed light. Customers came steadily, though never in great crowds. A merchant's wife might order a dozen tapers for her home. A priest would purchase thick altar candles for the church. Students from the university stopped by, coins in hand, asking for a single candle to last them through long nights of study. And sometimes the poor came, clutching a few copper pieces, asking for even the smallest stub of wax to carry them through the darkness. The candlemaker never turned them away. He would always find something, even if it was small, even if it meant less profit for himself. For he knew what it meant to have light when night pressed heavy against the walls. He himself lived simply. His bed was a wooden frame with a straw mattress. His meals were bread, olives, and sometimes a little cheese. On Sundays, he would go to the church, watching his own candles glow upon the altar. There, he felt something larger than himself, that his hands, though humble, had shaped a light that joined in prayer, that lifted hearts toward heaven. Years passed in this rhythm. Work, rest, worship, and quiet evenings in the glow of his own candles. He never sought wealth. He never sought fame, and yet, in his quiet way, he became a figure known in his neighborhood. People trusted him. They knew that his candles would not fail them, that his flame would burn steady and true. When sickness swept through the city, his candles burned beside the beds of the ill. When marriages were celebrated, his candles lit the feasts. When children were baptized, his candles flickered beside the font. And when the dead were carried to rest, his candles followed in a procession, casting light upon the mourners' faces. In this way, though no one wrote his name in chronicles, his life was present in every corner of Verona. His craft touched every stage of life: birth, love, sorrow, and death. He was not a man of battles or palaces. He was a man of wax and wick. And yet, his work mattered, as all light matters when night falls. Toward the end of his life, his hair turned silver. His hands bore scars from years of melted wax and fire. But his gaze remained steady, his spirit calm. Children who once came with their parents now came as adults, still buying candles from the man they remembered since childhood. When at last his time came, he passed quietly, as if drifting into sleep. His neighbors remembered him not with grand speeches, but with simple words. He was the candlemaker. He gave us light, and though his name is forgotten, his presence lingers. For every candle he made, every flame he tended, was a small act of hope against darkness. And in that, he lived a life both ordinary and extraordinary, a life shaped by the simple gift of light. Long before Verona, before the little shop on the cobbled street, the story of candles begins in shadow. For as long as humans have lived, they have sought to bring light into the night. Fire was the first gift, a wild, untamed flame, flickering in caves, warming hands, keeping beasts away. Yet fire was not enough. People wished for light they could carry, light that would travel with them into darkness. And so, across the ancient world, the candle was born, not at once, not in one place, but in many lands, by many hands. As though humanity itself had conspired to draw flame into smaller vessels. Archaeologists tell us that as early as 3,000 years ago, the Egyptians dipped reeds into tallow, creating simple rushlights. These did not have wicks as we know them, but they burned, carrying glow into homes and temples. Imagine the smell: heavy, earthy, faintly sour. Imagine the rooms filled with smoke, yet alive with shadows that danced along painted walls. In Rome, candles took another form. The Romans used tallow as well, pouring it into clay molds around woven reeds. These were more controlled, steadier, their flames more patient. When archaeologists uncovered ancient Roman villas, they found fragments of these candles, small traces of everyday life, silent testimony that even in an empire of stone and marble, night still pressed close, and light was still needed. Far away in China, candle making followed a different path. There, wax was drawn not from bees alone, but from the seeds of plants, and even from whales. Ancient records describe candles made from the fat of fish, their flames burning in the houses of scholars and emperors alike. Each culture discovered its own way of shaping light, its own answer to the question, how do we hold fire gently so it does not consume, but instead guides? Beeswax was always the most treasured. Unlike tallow, it did not smoke or sour. It released a fragrance soft as honey, a sweetness that clung to the air. For centuries, beeswax candles were reserved for the wealthy, for palaces, and above all, for churches. In the great cathedrals of Europe, thousands of beeswax candles glowed, their flames reflecting in gold and stone. As choirs sang beneath vaulted ceilings, to burn beeswax was a luxury, a sign of purity, of devotion. Yet even in simple homes, candles had their place. Archaeologists in medieval villages have found bits of hardened tallow, charred wicks, fragments of clay holders. These remnants speak of quiet evenings, of families gathered, of children listening to stories, of mothers spinning wool by firelight. Nothing grand, nothing monumental, yet deeply human. For what is a candle, if not an invitation to sit, to pause, to share the gentle company of others? Mystery still lingers around the symbolism of candles. Why do we, across cultures, place such meaning in flame? In ancient Rome, candles were lit for the dead, guiding spirits into rest. In Jewish tradition, the menorah carries sacred light, its flames recalling ancient miracles. In Christian ritual, candles are prayers made visible. Each flame, a voice lifted silently toward heaven. And even in secular life, candles mark birthdays, weddings, moments of hope. We blow them out, we wish upon them, we carry them in vigils. Always, the flame is more than fire. It is memory, it is longing, it is connection. When archaeologists dig through layers of history, they do not only uncover broken pots and lost tools. Sometimes they find tiny blackened stubs of candles. To us, they may seem insignificant, yet in truth, they are fragments of light preserved in the earth. They are whispers of nights long past, nights when someone sat quietly, just as you sit now, watching the flame. Consider this: a candle is time made visible. Each drop of wax that melts is a moment passing, a breath, a heartbeat. To watch a candle is to watch time soften, to watch it transform into light. Perhaps that is why humans have always found comfort in them. The flame does not rush. It does not hurry. It moves at the pace of stillness, reminding us that life too can be gentle. And so the mystery is not simply where candles began or how they were made, but why they have always stayed with us. Even today, in a world of electricity and endless brightness, we still return to candles. We light them in moments of silence, in times of joy, in hours of grief. We light them when we need presence, when we wish to remember, when we seek peace. If you were to walk into a museum today, into a gallery of ancient objects, you might see one of those old Roman clay molds, or a stub of Egyptian tallow, or a beeswax candle taken from a medieval church. The labels would speak of dates and origins. Yet, if you looked closer, you might feel something deeper, a quiet echo, for those objects once burned with light. They once cast glow upon human faces. They once carried the same fragile flame that now lives in your memory of candles. And so, as we reflect upon the candlemaker of Verona, we see that his work was not only his own. He was part of a long story, a lineage of light stretching back through centuries and across continents. His hands joined a tradition older than history itself, the tradition of holding fire softly, of shaping light to share with others. This is the mystery of candles. They are at once ordinary and eternal. They are tools and they are symbols. They are wax, wick, and flame. And they are also memory, time, and hope. High above Verona's narrow lanes, in the grand palaces and churches of the city, candles took on another life, where the candlemaker's small shop smelled of wax and smoke. These places shimmered with abundance. Here, beeswax was not rationed or scraped together. It was ordered by the hundredweight, carried in barrels, stored in cellars. The glow was not a single flame upon a humble table, but a sea of light, flames rising like stars brought down to earth. Imagine the great cathedral of Verona in the 15th century. The air is cool, heavy with incense. Stone arches rise like trees, their shadows reaching into darkness. And everywhere, candles burn. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, their flames swaying in gentle currents of air. The choir sings, voices echoing like water in a cavern, while each candle flickers a small but steady presence. To stand in that place would be to feel surrounded by light, enfolded by it, almost lifted into another world. For the wealthy, candles were not just tools of survival, but instruments of display. In the palaces of nobles, long banquet tables gleamed with silver and gold, and above them, chandeliers hung heavy with wax tapers. Their light fell upon velvet and silk, upon goblets brimming with wine, upon faces flushed with feasting. In such moments, the candle was a sign of status, proof that the household could command luxury, that the night itself could be bent into submission. Yet even here, even in opulence, the candle remained the same. It melted, it burned. It softened into pools of wax, just as it did in the candlemaker's shop. Whether held in the hands of a duke or placed on the workbench of a craftsman, each flame lived its brief life and was gone. Perhaps that is why candles fascinated both rich and poor alike. They were reminders of time as passing, of how life itself glowed brightly and then drifted into silence. Ritual deepened this meaning. In weddings, candles were joined, their flames mingling as two lives became one. In funerals, candles guided the departed, their soft glow a comfort to the living. In festivals, candles lined windows, streets, and altars, turning entire cities into fields of light. Each culture gave candles their own role, yet the essence was shared. Flame as witness, flame as memory. And still, back in the narrow shop, the candlemaker worked quietly, knowing little of the splendor his craft inspired. He did not stand in palaces or dine beneath chandeliers, yet his hands shaped the very objects that made such moments possible. There is a lesson in this contrast, a gentle one. The work of ordinary lives often feeds the brilliance of the extraordinary. A single craftsman, with his modest tools, sustains the rituals of an entire society. His small shop, with its melted wax and smoke-stained walls, is as vital as the palace hall. And so, as you drift with me through this story, consider the candle itself once more. Think of its small, steady flame. It does not shout, it does not boast. It simply gives, quietly, patiently, until it is no more. Perhaps that is why candles soothe us, because they teach us, without words, how to live gently. Let us return to the candlemaker one final time. Evening has come to Verona. The streets grow quiet. In his shop, he places one last candle upon the table. He lights it, and the glow fills the small room. He sits, weary from the day, and lets the flame keep him company. Outside, the world moves on. Nobles feast, priests chant, children sleep. Inside, there is only the craftsman, the candle, and the soft breathing of night. You, too, are in that room now. You sit where he sits. You watch as the wax softens, as the flame sways, as the shadows dance gently upon the walls. The world outside is far away. All that matters is this quiet moment, this gentle light, this shared stillness. And as the flame grows lower, so does your own wakefulness. Your breath slows, your thoughts soften. The candle, faithful and calm, keeps watch as you surrender to rest. The story closes here, but the flame remains. Steady, patient, unhurried. It will guide you into sleep, just as it guided countless souls before you. So now, drift. Let the flame carry you into dreams. Let it guard your night. Let it remind you that, like wax melting into light, you are safe, you are at peace, and you are held in the gentle rhythm of time. Good night, dear listener. Sleep deeply, sleep sweetly, sleep in light.